Have you ever felt worthless, unimportant, like you don't really matter, that no one really cares? I want you to know something. The Lord loves you, and you're his masterpiece. In Ephesians 2:10, Paul says, "For we are his workmanship, created in Messiah Yeshua for good deeds, which God prepared beforehand so that we might walk in them." That word workmanship, it's the Greek word poema. It's where we get the word poem from, or poetry. You're not some random scrap of existence. You're God's poetry, his handcrafted, intentional, beautiful creation. And sometimes we find it hard to believe that we're a masterpiece, that we're loved or cherished or valued or important. You feel like, a speaker will say that, motivational speakers say that stuff, but you don't really believe it in your heart. That's why in Ephesians 1:18, Paul says, "Look, I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened." And one of the things he wants our hearts to be awakened to is this. He says that you may know the riches of his glorious kingdom in you, in the saints, in the Kedoshim. There are passages where the Lord talks about our inheritance, but here it speaks of his inheritance, that God's people submitted to his purposes have always and continue to be, as Deuteronomy 26:18 says, of his people, a treasured possession. Paul says, open their eyes, open the eyes of their hearts to see who they are to you, Lord, that they are your riches, they're valuable to you, that they're your treasured possession. And here's the thing, the Lord knows, he realizes what we had become. In Ephesians 2, Paul writes, don't forget, you were dead, you were broken, you were lost. Spiritually speaking, we were like those old rusted out antiques piled up in a junkyard, dusty and rotted out, buried under years of neglect, and people just walk past. They don't even notice, and if they think anything, they think it's worthless. But the Lord steps in because your maker knows what he made you to be. Did you ever watch the show American Pickers? Rest in peace, Frank Fritz. Mike and Frank were on a hunt, on a search. They'd go to junkyards and find things that most of us would overlook, forgotten, treasured, covered in rust and grime. And they knew what they were looking for. They were not only able to see what those things had originally been, they could see what they could become. They didn't just see rust, they saw restoration. And then they had a showroom showing off beautiful pieces that they had restored. Their masterpieces, right? These guys weren't even the original makers. That's what the Lord does with us. He doesn't just leave us in a pile of the past. He steps into the mess. He finds us. He pulls us out. He begins restoring us. Why? Because we were his creation to begin with. We're his inheritance. We're his treasure, his masterpiece. And God isn't just cleaning you up so you can sit on a shelf. He has a purpose for you. You were created for good works, prepared by him before you were born. He didn't just rescue you from something. He's called you to something. So today, stop seeing yourself as old, forgotten relic. Start seeing yourself as God's masterpiece. May the eyes of your heart be enlightened to see the treasure that you are to him. And ask the Lord, Lord, what good works have you prepared for me to walk in today? And then walk in them, because you're not forgotten. You're not worthless. He sees you. He's never forgotten you. You are his finest work. He adores you.